Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France, and of course, you good old boys in Canada. You know we love you in Canada. I'm not going to forget the Big C tribe over in Africa. Thank you for following Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network. But Big C, there's no one we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Big C, Happy New Year 2018. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys?
Well, Charlton, I woke up this morning, this afternoon, and it was cold.
Yeah.
I slept through the sunrise and everything for some reason. I can't figure it out. I drank too much clear water last night.
That clear water.
That kind of knocked me out.
Well, I know that clear water can get you good old boys. In fact, everybody needs to drink more clear water in the New Year, Big C, from what I understand. But so much happening in the world of sports, and I do want to just say a Happy New Year to everyone all over the world just watching these celebrations of fireworks going on all over the continent, Big C, and seeing it from South America, seeing it from Europe, the African continent, of course here in the United States of America. It reminds me of what we really are grateful for, which is our freedom. We get to come into another great new year, whether 2017 was good or bad for anyone. 2018 has so much of a positive feel to it, Big C. I just want to get your thoughts on what you're looking forward to in 2018.
Well, Charlton, I'm looking forward to a lot, but first and foremost, I want to pay homage to all those great sports figures that we lost in 2017 that will not be joining us here in the new year.
Yeah.
They meant so much to the world of sports, the history, and to the fans out there that really enjoyed their broadcast and their play over the years and decades, Charlton. And I just want to pay homage to those great figures. There's too many of them to name, but everyone knows the people that we no longer have with us and stuff, Charlton. But we're looking forward to 2018.
Well, that's a very good point, Big C. I do want to say today's segment sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Big C, I know you were down there. If you're like I am, I'm kind of overdosed on peach cobbler, ribs, and also bowl games, Big C. I've seen so many bowl games, it's hard for me to count. I know the Rose Bowl today had a great showing with the good old boys from the South. To see the good old boys from the South invading everybody out here in the West Coast, do they tell the people down south to pick up your beer cans, Big C? There's so much beer cans spread all over the Rose Bowl, Big C. That's not Southern hospitality. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, Charlton, a lot of these little boys, knowing about driving through the backwoods and everything. So, they look at it as a litter box. And they just drop everything as they're going along. But, having to make the trek out west, Charlton, to leave the cold, southern part of the United States, going out to sunny California and everything, And if you look at the bowl games, Charlton, the people who have traveled with animals haven't fared too well.
Yeah, I noticed that, Big C. I noticed that, and I noticed a lot of people don't wash their cars down south. There's a lot of muddy trucks out here in Pasadena and the Rose Bowl. Gorgeous setting, though, man. Starting out with the Rose Bowl parade. A lot of tradition out here in Southern California. And just going back to the game where the last time Georgia came out, I believe, was in the 40s, in the 41 game, and they beat UCLA. I think it was 6-0, and they actually took the train. And you think about how much you travel, Big C. You're always on airplanes, and when you play it, you're always traveling. Then in broadcast, always traveling. Think about how much we take for granted. You ever know how someone shows up late at an airport and they get mad at the airline that they missed their flight, Big C? You ever deal with that, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I've seen that a few times. People running through and, getting to the gates closed and talk about what I'm here and the plane hasn't left.
Yeah.
I guess they think backing a plane out of an airport is like backing a car out of a garage. You can just stop and, open the door again.
Yeah.
We're more technical than that. But, there's a lot of things that's going on, Charlton. I'm down here in the South, and, it was cold, so I had to go inside. And I want to thank Mercedes for building that beautiful dome in Atlanta today, to be able to go in there, Charlton, to see a tremendous game against a former number one team in the country, Auburn, playing Central Florida. And Central Florida, Charlton, ended up the season with a perfect record. Frost is leaving, going back to his alma mater in Nebraska. But he stayed with his team even though he signed his contract with Nebraska. He was committed to the players. And that's an admirable thing, Charlton. You think about these coaches nowadays that are looking to flight. Your friend Jimbo Fisher couldn't wait to get out of Tallahassee. He was gone before the bowl game. But, I commend Scott Frost today, Charlton, for being a total professional about a commitment that he had to the University of Central Florida and its players that he recruited to stay with them throughout the season. And he led them to this undefeated season, Charlton. And you think about it, Auburn beat two of the teams that are playing for the national championship. They beat they beat Georgia. And they beat Alabama. And you think about it, Central Florida handled Auburn today, no problem. And they're the only undefeated team in major college football, Charlton, and they got no consideration.
Yeah, that's true, and that's why I think we'll see eventually going from 4 games, Big C, to 8 games. And you know what you talk about, and we've been talking about over the years, and then seeing this bowl setup. Even when I watch these great traditional rivalries, when we talk about regionalizing games, well, people want to see the Grand Slam, just like in the fight we had over the weekend, the UFC 219, where Cyborg beat up on Holly Holmes. They had some pre-fights also, but there's not as much anticipation around the pre-fights. Everyone wants to see, the big bowl games. The Rose Bowl sold out. It's just gorgeous. It all looks red because both colors from Oklahoma and then also Georgia, they have red. But people see that, and people want to pay attention to what's going on. When you look at Central Florida, they recruit the players that Miami used to get and the same players that Florida State used to get in their system with Scott Frost. I was surprised that they handled Auburn the way they did, Big C. But does that mean we have more equity when it comes to getting the top athletes all over the country now, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charles, decades ago when they reduced the scholarships for all the universities, parity came about in college football. And when you think about the top 2 teams in Florida, they're really the top 3 teams in Florida. Central Florida, Florida International, and the other school where Charlie Strong is.
South Florida.
These schools, Charlton, have dominated the landscape down in Florida. But when you think about the plethora of athletes that are available now, when you can go out and recruit speed in your home state, you don't have to really go across the country any longer and chase down players, and that's what so many universities do. And when you look at the job that Scott Frost has done, this is a team, Charlton, in Central Florida that was 0-12 just 3 years ago.
Wow.
3 short seasons ago, they were 0-12. Now they're 13-0, actually 14-0, Charlton. After today's victory over Auburn. But, the thing about when you look at the bowl games, and we see the lack of, audience participation, Charlton, at these stadiums where you're looking there and they're only 40 and 50% filled, and which you have an oversaturation of games. There's only so much that anybody wants to watch of anything. And when you're watching so many bowl games, it's like watching the same soap opera over and over.
Hold on, Big C. Breaking news. Big C watching soap operas? Is that what you're trying to... You watching Young and the Restless, My One Life to Live, and what's it called? General Hospital, them good old girls, Big C?
But this is what the bowl teams really need to take a reconsideration of. And you made a great point last week, Charlton. When you have to do it like the 1AA playoffs. Let one of the teams start hosting a bowl game.
Makes sense.
Have it at their home facility. At least you're going to increase the attendance. And as a former player, I know playing in front of a packed house, you always felt great. Well, when you looked up and saw a stadium half empty, and you felt kind of demoralized. Normally that's what you saw at the end of the game when the game was out of hand. But now you're seeing them at the beginning of the game and halftime.
That's a good point, Big C. You think about it. Who regionalized? Just because we say it doesn't mean that it makes sense, but it does make sense. Think about it. Who regionalizes playoff games? The NFL, they regionalize their playoff games, Big C. Who also regionalizes playoff games? if you look all over the states, all over the country,
think about it.
Baseball does it.
The NBA.
The NBA does it.
If you start going to neutral sites,
yep,
playing NFL playoff games, so the Steelers are in.
Yeah.
So they got to go to Cleveland and play their playoff game.
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense. Or they got to go to Miami.
Yeah.
And Miami's out of the playoffs and play their game.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. You're going to tell the fans that you have to pack up in a week or 2 weeks
yep,
and go across the country and play. You have to understand from the college perspective, Charlton, the atmosphere of a college stadium, so much of that is student participation.
Student participation.
When you look at the student section in these stadiums, Charlton, they're full. They're never empty.
Yeah.
The students show up in droves.
Yep.
They're maniacs.
Yep.
You know, 'cause I used to party with a couple of them when I was in college. And
yeah.
I didn't want to let it known, when I wasn't around these guys that I knew and stuff.
Yeah.
But, when you look in the student section, it's like being there at your Raider games, like being in the black hole.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I think if are they gonna take the black hole to Las Vegas? I mean, because I think that good old boy that played for the Los Angeles Lakers already found the black hole. He was gone for 4 days. They said he was passed out. He was just hanging out in the black. He was testing out the black hole, Big C. If you get my drift, Big C. Lamar Odom, them good old boys. I do want to run down just a few of the bowl games and think about the success that the Big Ten had had outside of one of the most ballyhooed coaches, and Coach Harbaugh. He's the only one in the Pac-10, in the Big Ten that lost a bowl game. They lost that game when they played Michigan versus South Carolina, and it was 26-19 with South Carolina getting that win. So Michigan falls to 8-5 on the season, and South Carolina goes to 9-4. And the 6 coaching vacancies in the NFL, and at some point in time, you trade in that Escalade every now and then, Big C. You might trade in a pair of shoes every now and then. But do you think that with Harbaugh saying, I'm not going to win a Big Ten championship, let alone a national championship, does he jump on one of those NFL openings, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, there are 2 perfect fit openings in the NFL that would fit Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
He started his career with the Chicago Bears as a backup quarterback to Jim McMahon.
Yeah.
He also went on to play quarterback with the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
And so you think about Fox being let go by the Bears.
Yep.
Fagano being let go by the Colts.
Yep.
These are perfect situations.
Yeah.
Either one of these he goes to, Charles, think about it. They both have young quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You know that Trubisky is going to be there in Chicago for a few more years. If he can't pan out, then they'll shop it.
Yeah.
But, you go to Indianapolis, you got to double that hand. No one knows what Andrew Luck's future is. It's very skeptical right now.
Yeah.
Whether he'll ever play there again or even play football.
Yeah.
Because there's no clear path and no one knows anything. But you have Jacoby Brissett, who showed signs of promise.
Yep.
Now, we know with Jim Harbaugh, he's not afraid to play an African-American quarterback.
No, he's not.
So I think he would be confident if he went there and had only Jacoby Brissett. It's all the fans of the broadcast booth keep saying Andrew Luck is the greatest thing since sliced bread.
No, he's
you
not.
got to realize the Colts haven't made the playoffs in 3 years.
No.
So that bread's gotten kind of stale.
That's what they call stale bread, Big C. Hey, I think stale bread has its own appeal to it. I think a lot of people benefit from that every night. The chickens love the stale bread. But I think, obviously, with so much movement, no one's loyal to anyone. I think there's a rapper that sang a song about these girls ain't loyal. And also when it comes to coaches, none of those coaches are loyal. We know the owners are not loyal. They'll do whatever it takes to make themselves better. And I think the Harbaugh, if he doesn't go, he's going to miss that opportunity. Sometimes when you get onto the highway, Big C, you see them when you're driving that big Escalade and you're trying to get onto the highway. When you see that opening, you got to punch the gas and get that opening, Big C. Is that what you do, or do you just punch the gas everywhere you go on that big old Escalade, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, on the professional level, you can somewhat control what you have.
Yep.
On the college level, everything's a turkey shoot because you're bringing in kids.
Yeah.
Don't worry about me being out there poaching, and it's not season. That was just an acronym that I used, so I didn't say that I do that stuff, okay?
Yeah, Big C.
So when you're on the pro level, you get a chance to pick your roster.
Yeah.
In college, you have to recruit and cull your roster. So you got to hope that guys make it.
Yeah.
They are what they were when you recruited them. But so many guys get overwhelmed when they get to the college level, Charles. It doesn't make any difference whether they're a 4 or 5 star recruit.
Yep.
It doesn't make you a surefire ticket to the NFL.
Yeah.
You know, because there's only so many jobs there.
Yeah.
But the thing about Harbaugh and understanding the program is that understanding certain mentalities, all college kids just don't respond to adversity.
Right.
You know, you saw that today when Michigan played.
Yeah.
You know, South Carolina set a bowl record today with 5 turnovers, you know, from Michigan.
Wow.
And so you saw the demoralization of Michigan's offense and even especially the defense.
Yeah.
Because they're like, here we go again. These guys have turned over the ball. We stop them. They give the ball right back to them.
Yeah.
Young players do that. It's easy for them to get off task.
Yeah.
Pros understand that this is my job.
Yeah.
I gotta play my role.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to keep my employment.
Yeah.
You know,
that's true.
A college kid can stay around for 4 or 5 years on a scholarship.
Yeah.
Even if he's not what you thought he was going to be.
Yeah, that's
but
funny.
But a pro guy is not going to sit around for 4 or 5 years if he's not producing, because every year you got the draft, you got the free agency, and you got those cuts that they have.
Yeah.
Now at the end of training camp, they only do it once.
Yeah.
They're like 45 guys looking for a job in 1 week.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good point, Big
You
C.
got to play.
I want to bring up a point just to get your thought. You were down there today at the Peach Bowl down there in the beautiful stadium, and you saw that game with UFC and then Auburn. But I just want to get your feel. That stadium down in Atlanta, I think is the best stadium out there from what I've seen. Everything, and I hear the weather's pretty cold down there today. But just give me your feel. Auburn's not that far. You know, Alabama, and they play in that area anyway when they play the SEC championship, and then Central Florida coming in. Oftentimes when you're in Florida and you're playing for a championship, only the University of Florida would go over to Georgia. And then you have Miami that would go in the ACC as well as Florida State. There was a time when Miami was independent. But I want to get your thoughts on that. The atmosphere was there because the crowd was pretty mixed, even though Auburn probably had a bigger crowd. Does that make more sense that they regionalized that game for those two teams? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, even in the regionalization of the game, the stadium wasn't even sold out.
Oh, really?
Surprised me.
Yeah.
And I was looking, you know, Auburn was just in Georgia, a month ago or 3 weeks ago, playing the SEC championship game against the University of Georgia.
Yeah.
They were just there. So, you know, you would have thought those fans would have came back, but they didn't. And so that stadium was probably about 80-85% full today, Charlton. Gorgeous facility. When you look at that jumbo screen that's a halo in the top of the stadium, it's just magnificent.
Yeah.
I mean, down at Jerry's World, no one thought it could be better than that.
Yeah.
This has outdone Jerry's World as far as the viewership for the fan to sit in the stadium. I mean, you really don't even want to watch the game.
Yeah.
You want to watch the screen.
When
you looked at Central Florida today, Charlton, the team speed is what I was so impressed with.
Yeah.
Is that they have players on defense that can get after you.
Yeah.
They were all over the field, and they have a quarterback that is so underrated. Everybody talks about Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
The quarterback at Central Florida is equal to Baker Mayfield, the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah. This
young man is about the same stature, maybe about an inch and a half taller.
Yeah.
But, you know, he is so accurate with his throws. And if you're not hyped in college football and put on that big stage as a quarterback, then no one knows who you are, you know, and sometimes even your friend Todd McShay and Mel Kiper don't know who they are.
Yeah, they may not know them as well, Bixie. That's
because
true.
People haven't hyped them.
Yeah.
But, you know, they'll talk about this kid, Josh Allen, out of Wyoming. I like the kid out of Central Florida because he has mobility and has the arm strength also.
Yeah, and I think Frost is going to take that same style of football over to Nebraska, and I think you'll see Nebraska climbing the ladder again.
Well, hold on now, Charlton. Them kids in Florida, they don't want nothing to do with making Nebraska come November and December. All right? Let's be realistic. He might take that off. Take the plays, but he's not going to take those plays. He's not going to. Let's be realistic. He still has to get some kids out of the cornfield.
Okay, he's going to get some kids that like playing in that 25 and 30-degree weather. I understand that. I look at, number one, congratulations to Mexico State. They go to 7-6. They won a bowl game for the first time in over 50 years, and they beat Utah State. I want to get your thoughts on the USC-Ohio State game. We just previewed that on Friday, and that was the Cotton Bowl down in Arlington, Texas. I think USC should decline any more invitations to Texas to play any kind of bowl games. Biggest thing, they still didn't get the memo. Take your own Gatorade. Them good old boys from a Buckeye is a nut, and they were nuts to drink some of the beverages that Ohio State brought from the good old boys to share. But I think one thing, actually two things, were exposed. Number one, if you look at the defensive side of the ball, that good old boy from Ohio State knows how to coach. Urban Meyer is a defensive expert, and he showed what's going to happen if you look at the USC quarterback, and everyone's saying he should go pro, he should come out now, etc. For the money, yeah, you always take the money. But there's no way someone could tell me that what he saw on that game is not what he's going to see every Sunday in the NFL. That's why I think if you can, you come back and play another year. Just give me your thoughts on that beatdown that Ohio State against USC. Very surprised about that, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you say, they should think about going to Texas twice. Well, they've gone down there 2 years in a row and scored a touchdown in each game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they really have to consider that. But, I put this on Sam Darnold's back, Charlton.
Yeah.
As far as lack of productivity. You think about the praise that he got.
He looked horrible
at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Everybody said he was the best quarterback in college football. Well, he won none of the awards. He didn't win his all-conference. So he wasn't the best quarterback even in his own conference.
No.
And so your friend Mel Kiper keeps hyping him about how good he is. But he's had an opportunity on the national stage on several occasions, Charlton, to showcase what he has as a quarterback.
Yeah.
And what he has showcased is not flabbergasted anybody. No one has been blown away by what he has done. I have not seen one game this year that Sam Darnold has dominated from the quarterback position, Charlton.
Yeah.
Where he has gone out and just separated. He hasn't pulled the Lamar Jackson. He hasn't pulled the Baker Mayfield, Charlton. He hasn't done any of those things.
No.
But yet everybody's saying that he's the best quarterback.
Yeah.
Now, when he played against a defense from Ohio State who has Urban Meyer, the head coach, a defensive genius, Greg Schiano, former head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Rutgers, who's the defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
These guys know how to play football, Charlton.
Yeah.
At the professional level. You think about Urban Meyer, who's won national championships. Greg Schiano, who's been in the NFL. So he has a defensive line. You think about it, he rotates 12 defensive linemen.
Yeah.
And that's something that USC could not handle in this game because the defensive line was always fresh.
Yeah.
And the pressure was always on Donald. And the thing that I noticed most about him, his most glaring weakness, Charlton, is that he looks down his receivers.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to look off receivers.
Yeah.
He has depended so much on his arm over the years playing lesser opponents. And now that the talent is increasing, and people, it's like what we saw last year in the NFL with Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
The first 3 games he came out because nobody had any tape on him because he missed the preseason.
Yeah.
After that, it's like, okay, this is what he does.
Yeah.
He's made adjustments in the sophomore year, but Sam Darnold has digressed, not progressed this year.
Yeah.
He has digressed from what he did a year ago at USC.
Yeah, and I think, and it's unfair for the man because he's really just a sophomore in college, and people keep pumping him. Because they want him to be this All-American thing that comes out of. He's not Carson Palmer, okay? He's not that. He's not Troy Aikman that also came out of the Pac-10 at the time, now Pac-12. The reason I think he should come back is because he doesn't have the mechanics yet. And I know he threw for over 4,000 yards this year, and that set a record for Pac-12 quarterbacks. But there's a reason he did that. They had some of their schedule wasn't all that difficult. But when you looked against some of the top defenses they played against, which was Ohio State, which was Notre Dame, which was even Texas when they have NFL caliber athletes, and even somewhat Stanford at some point, he did not have Washington State too. He didn't have the same level of success. So I know some of the pundits that said he's a can't miss first round draft pick for the NFL. They want to save face. So they want to keep saying he's going to be drafted anyway because his upside is better than his downside. But I would hate to see this kid get destroyed because he's sipping the moonshine that these prognosticators said he should sip. And when you have 19 turnovers in a season, okay, and 3 in a bowl game, one's a pick 6, they were not that really far out of the game other than he kept turning the ball over and being sacked. You get sacked 8 times. You're not NFL ready. So I hope that he stays in college and gets groomed. You don't give the keys of a 16-year-old kid to a 400-horsepower Camaro, Bixie. It doesn't make any sense. So I think you've been on that all season long. You're not someone who's changed your opinion at the end. I do want to get your thoughts on a couple more college games. I looked at the Washington and I looked at the Penn State game. And you also pointed out something in Drake Browning. I know he was also hyped as one of the top, NFL-ready quarterbacks. And when I looked at Jake Browning, he led the nation in high school as a high school All-American quarterback, over 90 touchdown passes in one season, Big C, at Folsom High School up in Sacramento. But also, when I look at what his weakness was in the pocket, he's like deer in the headlights. He gets sacked too many times. He holds the ball too long. I saw the same thing that the Penn State coaches scouted in Browning. He missed so many passes. Washington could have won that game, but he just is not ready, Big C. And I know under Peterson he has good tutelage for quarterbacks, but you said the same thing about Browning when the season began, Big C. What do you see in him and his weaknesses?
Well, I don't know if you saw the animated kids movie called Happy Feet.
Yeah, I think I saw that feed.
That's what Jake Browning reminded me of in this game against Penn State.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he looked nervous.
Yeah.
And here's a kid that, I mean, I don't know if he recovered from the game last year.
Alabama beat them. Yeah.
You know, Alabama was over all game long. He just suffered a concussion in that game, Charlton.
Yeah.
And continued to play, but he hasn't recovered it. And you look at him, he has a very difficult time reading. He's a guy that works on timing.
He's a timing quarterback.
He doesn't have the strongest of arms. He's a timing quarterback.
Yeah.
And when you disrupt the timing of his receivers, he's at this made a defense where he's sitting there like, please guys, you know, get to your spot. And if they're not there on that, you know, that click that he's supposed to be on, he starts running around. He will not hang in there and take the hit as a quarterback.
Yeah.
And that damages his credibility down the road. You know, is he that type of leader? So I see that problem with him. And Donald is displaying the same thing, Charlton, where he won't stay consistent in the pocket.
Yeah.
You know, he wants to move around. You got to sit there and read. That's what makes a quarterback successful on the professional level.
Yeah.
You don't have the ability to run around because offensive lines are not built for you to be mobile generally.
That's a good point.
And if you're in a drop-back scheme, that's what that offensive line is built for. Everyone is not built like Tennessee with Mariota.
Yeah.
It's going to move around. Cam Newton in Carolina that's going to move around.
Yeah.
They build these big hulking offensive lines for quarterback like Matt Ryan. Yeah. You know, who is going to be there, you know, in the pocket. Ben Roethlisberger, who is going to be there in the pocket.
Yeah.
So this is what you got the problem with Donald. Everyone says he's a classic drop back passer.
Yeah, he's not ready yet.
You put him in a scheme that's a classic drop back. You know, you build him for failure on the next level, Charlton. He'll go 3 years. Put it this way: the first 3 years of his career would mirror Steve Young of Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Came out of college with all these accolades, tremendous arm, tremendous athlete.
Yep.
But he was in Tampa Bay.
Yep.
A team that lost before they got out of the locker room.
Yep, that's true.
You know? and that's the same thing that's going to happen with Sam Donald. Watch this. Over the next couple of years, if he comes out, he will remind everybody of Steve Young leaving BYU.
Yeah, and that's he also taught Marinovich at USC. They are just so overhyped, and the fundamentals of what matters in the NFL, not how much hype you get out of the college media that follows those guys. Also, so congratulations, Ohio State. Urban Meyer just proved one of the better coaches in the history of college football. But I also want to say J.T. Barrett. I look at the contrast. One player set the record for all-time yardage in the Big Ten, and that's J.T. Barrett. Another guy has 19 turnovers in the Pac-12, and Sam Darnold. One guy that's saying he needs to be a first-round NFL draft pick. You would think it'd be the guy that won the game, Big C, or the guy that didn't have 19 turnovers. Think about this, and I'm very serious. As an NFL scout, you have one guy that has 19 turnovers on one season. Normally, that's what you get in 3 years. In the one season, 19 turnovers. And then he's playing against a quarterback that set the record for the most time all yardage leader in the Big Ten Conference and wins the bowl game 24-7. Which one would you expect them to be talking about being an NFL prospect? Now, when they say, well, with Darnold, you know, he can have some things worked on. They can work on some of his weaknesses, but he has an upside. With J.T. Barrett, they could also do the same thing and work on his weaknesses because he also has an upside. That upside is called winning, Big C, but we haven't heard of that. Last couple of college games I'll touch on, and I know we got the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl wrapping up, Big C. But Wisconsin and their win versus Miami, I thought Wisconsin, to finish 13-1 on the season, it seemed to be they had more team speed than Miami. They were always, it seemed to be a step ahead. And that was Miami playing down in the heart of Miami. Well, if you call Fort Lauderdale the heart of Miami. But talk about Wisconsin, how they represented another Big Ten power going into a southern state and whipping them good old boys. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they were happy to get out of the cold. You see the weather up in Wisconsin this time of year, we talk about single digits.
Yeah.
But when they got down to Miami, it was in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
It was really Christmas for them, Charlton.
Yeah, I understand.
So they opened up a can of whip, whatever it is, on Miami, for Christmas. But when you look at Wisconsin, Charlton, this is a solid team from top to bottom, offensively and defensively.
Yeah.
The running game is so solid with Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about the SEC and the dominance of running.
Yeah.
You look at the Big Ten and look at the running backs in the Big Ten. Wisconsin plays a true freshman.
Yeah.
Who set a freshman rushing record.
Yeah.
In his game against Miami.
Yeah.
So this is a team that that loss that they had, that hiccup at the end of the season.
To Ohio State.
The Big Ten championship game at Ohio State.
Yeah.
They still should have made the playoffs.
Yeah, they look like it.
You had one hiccup, and you do that on turnovers. It wasn't like they were dominated. It was turnovers that lost them the game.
Yeah.
And everybody in the tournament is in that position, Charlton, but to fall out of it, and you have a strength of schedule. Think about this. As much as people malign Wisconsin throughout the regular season, their strength of schedule, Charlton, was better than Alabama's, who will get blown out tonight.
Well, I tell you what, Big C, that's not a far-fetched statement to make. So, again, some of the games from Friday, just noticeable games. Ohio State 24-7 over Southern California. Really, I thought Lynn Swann would make a difference the way he was eating all those nachos up in the press box, Big C. That didn't make a stance at all. Congratulations to Ohio State finishing at 12-2 on the season. Southern Cal falls to 11-3. And then you have the Louisville, Mississippi State with the win, 31-27 over Louisville. Iowa State goes to 8-5 with a 21-20 win over Memphis, and Memphis is ranked in the polls. Iowa State again knocked off Oklahoma earlier in the year. Pitt State 35-28 over Washington, and then a game that I thought was going to be the other side of the round, 34-24 Wisconsin over Miami. I thought so many people thought the team speed from Miami would show up, but it really did not show up for them. And Penn State 35-28 over Washington. And South Carolina with a surprising 26-19 win over Michigan. USF, the game you covered, Big C, a big win over Auburn. A lot of people thought that would be a game that Auburn could win it, but 34-27 for USF. And then you look at Notre Dame with a come from behind 21-17 win over the LSU Tigers, and that's good for college football. I want to just touch on, before we cover the NFL real quickly, Big C, in the UFC 219, it was Cyborg beating up Holly Holm, and Chris Cyborg, I don't want to offend anybody when I say this, but she's so masculine, Big C, okay? She has the masculinity of a weightlifter, I'll say it for that way, okay? And Holly Holm, he really didn't have much of a chance against her. Chris Cyborg, she reminds me of Mike Tyson when he was at his prime. I think in the UFC is very popular sport, as we always talk about. But Cyborg, when you look at the way she trains, she could fight men and beat some men in the ring, I'm sure, Big C. She really pounded Holly Holm, who made herself famous by knocking out Ronda Rousey, not too long ago. But she's no match for a Cyborg. When you look at the world of UFC and the MMA, I know they want to pump the men, but this woman, they could get behind her and really build a big following. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think the reason why they don't, try to hype her so much is because of the sexism part of it, Charlton.
Yeah.
Is that, she doesn't have that Madison Avenue look like Ronda Rousey and Holly Holm has. She's got that blonde hair, blue eye.
Yeah.
She is just a dominant
She's a fighter.
human being.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even refer to just human being. She is.
Yeah.
I mean, Cyborg, when you look at it, she exudes dominance.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
She walks in and, she's looking around talking about which one's the referee. Because I'm knocking the other one out. That's the bottom line of her game. She doesn't go in there. When you're a competitor, there's times when you walk into an event feeling that you can lose, or this may be a tight one for you,
Yeah.
She doesn't have that.
No.
She walks in and she's like, how long you want this to last? That's her mindset. But, as far as an athlete, Charlton, she's phenomenal.
Yeah.
She is just a phenomenal person, and she goes out there and she does what you're supposed to do in a fighting event like this, Charlton. She goes out and she dominates the point. I go from a line in a movie, Remember the Titans, with the great Denzel Washington, where Sam Shepard, not Sam Shepard, I'm trying to remember the assistant coach, when he went out there, he said, leave no doubt.
Yeah.
The to his defense when they were playing his coach. A team who had made some racial epithets towards his team. He said, leave no doubts. Let him remember the Titans. That's how it is with Cyborg when she's fighting. I mean, and you could see in Holly Holm's eyes, she's like, this may be a tough night.
It was tough.
She walked out there.
I tell you.
She didn't exude confidence at all.
No, she don't. I mean, congratulations to Cyborg. She trained so hard. And when I saw her training, covering so many MMA fights as I do on the West Coast, sometimes you see them walk into the ring, and 9 out of 10 times you can see who's going to win just by the demeanor of that fighter. And maybe you might be wrong 10% of the time, but 9 out of 10 times, I think everyone said this was going to happen. A lot of people were surprised that it went the whole distance, so congratulations to both fighters. They really fought valiantly. But I do want to say congratulations to Cyborg, really a champion of the world. I want to say sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. For every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports, and whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league, when you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you, or call 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. Big C in the world of the NFL. I know it's Happy New Year for everybody. And as you always say, it doesn't matter what your regular season record was, Big C. It all begins again in the new when you have an NFL playoff format. Doesn't matter what you won in the past. Everybody's undefeated, and everybody starts out at 0 right now. I want to get your thoughts on our playoff games. We have the Bills and we have Jacksonville. That's going to be a matchup in the AFC. But Saturday, the Titans at 9-7. They're the 5th seed. They're at Kansas City 10-6. They're the 4th seed in the AFC. That game is Saturday on ESPN. Give me your thoughts. The Titans pulled out a close win to close out the season and get into the playoffs. Kansas City finished strong, but not that impressive in their game against the Broncos. But give me your thoughts on Kansas City and the Titans in the playoff wildcard game, Big C. Your thoughts?
Kansas City is the most puzzling team in the playoffs every year, Charlton. They've lost their last 6 playoff games. So they've been this one-and-done job 6 consecutive times that they've been in the playoffs. And no one can figure it out. I mean, they normally have the lead in the first half. They start out well, they go into the locker room, cool down, and they forget to come out and kickstart it for the second half.
That's true.
But, when you look at Tennessee, this is an up-and-coming team. This is going to be a cold-weather game. Which running backs for Tennessee will show up? Will Henry and Murray show up, or just will it be Henry? Murray has struggled in the second half of the season. Marcus Mariota hasn't been as sharp as what they expect. But Kareem Hunt for Kansas City and Alex Smith have been on the roll the last 3 games. Will it continue and finally get them a win in the playoffs out of their last 7 tries?
That's obviously a game we got to keep an eye on. Also on Saturday, this to me has the feel of the team that wins this game might find themselves in the NFC Championship game just because they have the firepower on offense. I look at another Saturday game in the NFC, the Atlanta Falcons, which had to beat Carolina to get in, so they've already playoff tested. They have to remember what happened in the Super Bowl last year. They still haven't found that Julio Jones earring. No one's turned it in, a $5,000 reward for a $150,000 earring, Big C. But the Falcons at 10-6, they're the number 6 seed. They fly to the West Coast to play the 11-5 Rams, the champions of the NFC West, the 3rd seed in the NFL. That game is going to be at 8:15 kickoff Eastern Time on NBC Sports. I know the Rams rested everybody for the 49er game, so the 49ers got the win in that one 34-13. But Atlanta, they have to play in that momentum mode. They have to have momentum to beat Carolina, even though they did it at home. Your thoughts on Atlanta traveling to L.A. against a team that's been rested for a week, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the Rams rested a lot of their regulars last week in that loss to the 49ers. The Falcons have had to play everybody every game this year to get back into the playoffs. Now, coming out to the West Coast, the biggest factor in this game will be the grass surface. The Falcons are a turf team. They're coming out to play in grass. And depending on the time of the day out there, that grass can get slick in California. And so that's going to be a huge challenge for them. But the Rams have a defensive line that could put a lot of pressure on Matt Ryan. And he's one of those happy feet people that we talked about, like with Sam Darnold. He does not like to stay set in the pocket. And so the minute you start dancing around him, he will start moving. He's not as comfortable throwing the ball on the move. Will he allow his running backs to be equitable in this game with him?
Yeah.
Will he allow Freeman and Coleman to carry the ball?
Yeah.
And he has to get Julio Jones at least 10 looks in the game, Charlton. If he doesn't throw the ball to Julio Jones 10 times in this game, this game is over before it starts, because Jared Goff will come out with this Rams high-powered offense that led the league in scoring and set the Falcons on fire.
I tell you, and when I look at that, and I know a lot of people, and something you brought up to me also, and it goes back to the USC-Ohio State game. The last time, and I love West Coast football because I grew up out here, and I know you're down south, and so you're used to that southern hospitality with the moonshine and the deep fried barbecue ribs and all that good old boy stuff. Big C, I've never seen so many cowboy boots at the Rose Bowl to have Georgia fans and the Oklahoma fans coming out here, and they're all welcome as long as they clean up after themselves and pick up on your beer cans. But it's good to see.
This week, Charlton, you won't be able to find a can of Skoal in California after this weekend.
Yeah, Big C, you're right. They said they sold out on Skoal and barbecue ribs in L.A. of all places, Big C. So I think that's some more knowledge that you brought to the table that we really appreciate. But I think about something when I look at how the running games of any team that wins, your running game, we talked about last year, had the Falcons ran Freeman more in the Super Bowl, they would have won the Lombardi Trophy. They started out strong in the first half. The second half, they tried to throw a ball a lot, and they didn't throw to Julio Jones enough. He had 4 catches last year. The Rams, they have Todd Gurley, the NFL's MVP. I don't care if he gets it or not, but he's the NFL's MVP. Name me any player in the playoffs that can receive for 1,000 yards if you give him a chance, also rush for 1,000 yards if you give him a chance, can also catch the ball out of the backfield and run 90 yards untouched, Big C. No one can do that. That reminds me of Eric Dickerson, and they both have the same uniform. I think the key to the Rams, and don't forget, you got a guy in the backfield that reminds you of Eric Dickerson with a better defense, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Jared Goff understood what made him better this year, Charlton.
Yeah.
And that was having Todd Gurley healthy, touching the football.
Yeah.
Yes, they improved his receiving core. When you look at the 2 first draft picks of the NFL last year, Carson Wentz and Jared Goff.
Yeah.
The top things that they had was a receiving core upgraded. They both had 3 new wide receivers this year, and they both had new running backs. Because Jared Goff got Todd Gurley healthy. Well, he didn't touch the ball last year. He had one 100-yard game all last season, Charlton.
Yeah.
This year he's had multiples. And you look at Blunt and Ajayi in Philadelphia. But when you look at Gurley, the speed and size that he possesses, Charlton, is unparalleled by any other back in the NFL right now.
Yep.
And this offensive line has done a tremendous job of blocking for him this year. They've upgraded his offensive line, and he's been the recipient of that, Charlton. So I like what his game is right now as far as from the Rams' perspective.
Yeah.
They've been on a roll all season. And I don't see them letting off in front of the home crowd in Los Angeles. This is the first playoff game in Los Angeles since the Los Angeles Rams played the Minnesota Vikings back in the 70s.
Yeah, that's a good point, Big C. I want to get your thoughts also on the AFC. The Bills end a 17-year drought. That's really impressive when you think about how many times they went to the Super Bowl with Kelly. I think they went 4 years in a row as the AFC champion, and they didn't get it done playing Washington and then the Cowboys, and it was really difficult, and also the loss against the Giants. But the Bills 9-7, they're the 6th overall seed. They're at Jacksonville, which is a shell of itself from 3 weeks ago. Jacksonville's 10-6, the number 3 seed. That game is Sunday on CBS Sports, a 1 p.m. start on the East Coast. Big C. I know Shady McCoy had the ankle injury. I don't care what. If it's not broken, Shady McCoy is going to play in that game. They'll tape it up and do whatever they got to do to numb it some. But Jacksonville's defense is not as formidable as in the last couple of seasons, or the last couple of weeks of this season. They just don't strike a lot of fear. I know they could turn it around at home, but Buffalo seems to have a chance with Tyrod Taylor and also Shady McCoy, and their defense is pretty stout. Big C, your thoughts on that game?
You mean Nathan Peterman is not going to start this game for Buffalo?
Well, he might bench Tyrod Taylor, from what I understand. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I was concerned about that. Them benching Tyrod Taylor and putting Nathan Peterman back in and let him, double up his interception goal of the season. Go to 10 instead of 5. When you look at Buffalo in this game, Charlton, you got to think of Buffalo's native son. When you think about pop music, that's Rick James, the late Rick James.
Oh yeah.
But also the late Prince. It came to mind in Buffalo the other day because not since 1999 had the Buffalo Bills made the playoffs.
Wow.
So that was the biggest song that was being played in Buffalo over the week. We're going to party like it's 1999 with the the late Prince.
Yeah.
But, I like where Buffalo is in this situation, Charlton. Even with, McCoy being nicked up, the Jaguars, Charlton, don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
It's been proven the last couple of weeks. Blake Bortles, you don't want the game in his hands.
Yeah.
In this matchup, I feel that Tyrod Taylor can outdo him in this game, Charlton.
Oh, yeah.
The running backs have been nicked up for both teams, but as you mentioned, the defense for Jacksonville seems to be a little tired right now.
They're
They haven't
done.
played great.
Yeah, you're right.
And so I feel this game will come down between the two quarterbacks, Charlton. The running backs are on equal footing. Fournette has been nicked.
Yeah.
McCoy is nicked.
Yeah.
But Tyrod Taylor, I feel, is the X factor in this game with his mobility.
Yep.
His escapability, Charlton, that he'll be able to run. And if Tyrod Taylor can pick up some 50 yards on the ground in this game, Charlton,
Yeah.
that will secure a win for Buffalo.
Well, I think Buffalo wins that straight out. They just finished a game, down there in the state of Florida, so they're acclimated. I don't even know if they flew back to Buffalo to get frozen again and then fly back to the sunshine. It makes sense that they would just stay there because they've already gotten acclimated to it, and the weather should be pretty decent. The last wild card game of the weekend, Big C, should be a dandy. We have the Panthers at 11-5 under Cam Newton. They're the 5th seed. They had a poor showing against the Falcons, and they're at the Saints. And the Saints are really tough to beat in the Dome. The Saints are 11-5 in the NFC, Big C. They're the number 4 seed. That game is Sunday, a 4:40 kickoff Eastern Time on Fox Sports. And Drew Brees, when he has time, and the running backs they have can really move the ball. But he's a guy, he's going to get you 300 yards. Will he get you 400? We don't know. Cam Newton, I'm so impressed with him as a quarterback at times, but there are also times where he seems like he's just not in the game. And I know people talked about the CTE issues last year, and I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. But I can tell when the guy seems a little bit sluggish at times, and he seems sluggish in the game against Atlanta. Your thoughts on Carolina going down to New Orleans with all those beads, Big Z? I don't know how many beads they can afford to slip on in this game. Your thoughts?
Let me give you a little note on Cam Newton. Do you know where Cam Newton is from, Charlton?
Is he from the South?
He is from Atlanta.
Yeah, okay.
He grew up in Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know what he's done the last 3 trips to Atlanta?
What's that?
He has lost.
Yeah.
He has lost.
Yeah.
So when he comes home to Atlanta, he forgets that he's there for a football game, okay?
Oh, I understand.
He's too busy entertaining himself and entertaining friends and family.
Yep.
So he loses focus on what the business trip is all about.
Yep.
And it's evident when they had the perfect season going, Charlton, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
They lost to Atlanta.
That's some good inside information you're giving right now, Big C. Good inside information.
And so Cam Newton, Ron Rivera needs to think about how he handles Cam Newton when he goes to Atlanta in the future, if they're both going to be together in that relationship. But when you look at Drew Brees, on the other hand, Charlton, he's the quickest quarterback in NFL history to 70,000 yards throwing. And he has not slowed down.
Wow.
Everyone will say, well, he doesn't have a prime receiver. Yes, he does, Charlton. He has 3 of them.
He has 3 of them,
because he spreads the ball out equitably, you can't just lock down one guy.
Yeah.
He has a receiver with 100 receptions this year, Charlton, only the second receiver in NFL history in his first 2 years in the league to be a 90,000 guy.
Wow.
90 receptions and 1,000 yards. So Drew Brees knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he has 2 running backs, Charlton, that have been outstanding this year.
Yeah.
When you look at Carolina, they've really had McCaffrey.
Yeah.
But Carolina has lost to the Saints twice this year, Charlton.
Yeah.
So there's no fear factor when it comes to New Orleans playing Carolina. The biggest problem they have is trying to contain the running backs. Are they going to be healthy at linebacker with Kuechly and Davis?
Yeah.
That's Carolina right there. Can they get a pass rush on Drew Brees? I don't think that they can, Charlton. I like New Orleans handedly in this game.
Yeah, especially with that crowd they'll have down south, BC. I just want to run down a few more things and get your idea of some coaches changes. We had the Bears. We'll go through this quickly. The Bears, they dropped a game to the Vikings 23-10, and the Vikings go to 13-3 and wrapping up the conference there, Big C. Your thoughts on the Vikings going forward in the playoffs? How do you feel about them? They're so healthy, Big C. And unlike the Eagles, they won their last game when they could have easily rested a lot of players. Your thoughts on the Vikings' chances?
Well, I like what Zimmer's done as head coach, Charlton, that he's playing his players to the end. You got 5 months to rest up when all this is over before you have to be back in minicamp.
Yeah.
So you got 5 months to rest and get healthy. So if you got some little mix, if you don't have something broken or torn, you go out there and play.
Yeah.
As a professional, Charlton, never wanted to sit down. Even when a game was in hand, and they talk about, let's put in some backups, like, no, I want to play.
Yeah.
Because, you wanted to stay sharp. And that's what the Vikings have done this year, Charlton. They have stayed sharp.
Yep.
Every game. Case Keenum has kept his foot on the throttle and driven this Viking offense. You look at the receiving core. Waylon, has been outstanding this year, Charlton.
Yeah.
These guys have done what you need to do defensively. They got guys stepping up consistently every game.
Yep.
You don't see any big names on the defense, but they're all playing. They're making plays. This is the true team concept that Zimmer's installed in Minnesota once again, a la Brad Grant.
Yeah, and also I look at the Patriots go to 13-3, wrap up the home field advantage in the AFC with a 26-6 win over the Jets. Your thoughts quickly on the Patriots and their outlook for the playoffs, Big C?
Their outlook is always great, Charlton. Everybody is always going to say, well, the Patriots are faulted. I mean, you win 13 games, Charlton.
Yeah.
Where's the hiccup in your season? I mean, every NFL team out there wants to win 13 games. The Patriots do this consistently.
Yeah.
And they have home field advantage. And it's cold.
Yeah.
It's cold in New England this time of year. So they have two advantages, Charlton.
Yeah.
They're the best team in the AFC.
Yeah.
Plus they bring your buddy in the freeze for the game. All right?
Yeah. That's true. Now, they're a very solid organization. Really love everything that New England has done. And then the Jets will have a better chance next year. That game was Sunday, 1 o'clock on CBS Sports with Jim Nantz. Tony Romo and Tracy Wolfson had the play-by-play. The Redskins and the Giants finished out with a win. They go to 3-13 with an 18-10 win over the Redskins that fell to 7-9 on the season. That game was Sunday on Fox with Sam Rosen, Matt Millen, and Jennifer Hale. Your quick thought on the Giants and how you recap their season, Big C?
Well, the Giants' recap of their season is like a bottle cap. You just toss it away.
Yeah.
I think the biggest question that comes out of this game, and everybody will be talking about Eli Manning.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to talk about with Eli Manning. He's going to do what he wants to do. If he wants to be a Giant, he'll be there. If he wants to go elsewhere, he'll go.
Yeah.
The biggest story here is your cousin.
Yeah.
All right? Is he going to get another pay raise?
He's not my cousin.
I thought that was his name.
I know they say we look alike, Big C, because some people are colorblind, but no, he's not my cousin, Big C.
Okay.
I'll take his bank account, though. I'll take that for sure.
Not once did I hear him this season say, how do you like me now?
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't hear that once this season from the cousin.
No,
and he's got these $25 million contract this last season, 23.5 the year before.
Yeah.
And you think about it, Charlton, you've made almost $50 million in 2 years, and you don't have but 15 victories.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
15 victories. The Patriots, how many victories did the Patriots have this year?
13 this year. 13 this
13.
year. Yeah.
Okay. The Eagles had 13 also?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And you think about that. If you put Carson Wentz's salary and Tom Brady's salary together, they still combined fall about $8 million short of what Kirk Cousins made this year.
Wow.
But those two quarterbacks that produced 26 victories compared to Kirk Cousins, 7 this year?
Yeah. Yep. 7 and 9.
They combined made $8 million less than Kirk Cousins.
Wow, that doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't have to make any sense because Snyder signed the contract, Big C, and we'll quickly cover the Eagles 13-2. 13-3 now in the season. They dropped to the Cowboys 6-0. The Cowboys will finish at 9-7. They missed the playoffs, and the Eagles are the number 1 seed. That game was Sunday, 1 o'clock on Fox Sports with Kenny Albert, Rondé Barber, and Christina Pink. Is it good to get shut out in your final game, even though you're at home? I know they have Nick Foles. They didn't seem to play with the energy that you need to play with. Even if you lose a game, to get shut out at home, Big C, it doesn't make any sense if you're going to be the number 1 seed. Your thoughts?
Well, it was bone-chilling cold there, Charlton, and this is a flip of the script from last year.
Yeah.
If you recall, these two teams ended this regular season last year in Philadelphia, and the Cowboys lost to the Eagles in that game. So they flipped it this time around. And I'm perplexed right now by Nick Foles.
Yeah.
He came out, he looked real sharp against the Rams when he filled in for Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
But he hasn't done anything to sustain that.
No.
We know he has the ability as a former starter in the NFL.
Yep.
Right now, the last game and a half, he has just seemed to lack confidence of any type.
Yeah.
But it's not just Nick Foles, Charlton. We haven't seen the running game for the Eagles. you think about it, Blunt hasn't done anything, Ajayi hasn't done anything.
Yep.
The defense played well against the Cowboys. You think about it, the Cowboys only scored 6 points.
6 points, yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with the defense. It's just, when I look at the receiving core, a week ago, Alshon Jeffrey seemed totally disinterested.
Yeah.
You know, because throughout his career, this time of his year in Charlton, he was thinking about going fishing with Julio.
Julio.
This is the first time in Alshon's career he's ever gone to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Torrey Smith hasn't done anything, for the past couple of years, and then finally, and then, you got the kid from SC.
Yeah.
That has finally stepped up and had a decent season, but late in the season, his productivity slipped.
Yeah.
So as everyone wants to talk about Nick Foles and Nick Foles not being able to do this, don't forget that they lost their offensive tackle, Peterson, okay?
Yeah.
So you don't have your starting left offensive tackle. That's a big safety net for any quarterback.
Yeah.
And so, Foles doesn't have the protection that Wentz started the season out with.
Yeah.
And his receiving core is not used to playing at this time of the year. So those are some tangibles that no one looks at, Charlton.
Yeah, that's a good point, Big C. The Browns, they go to 0-16. I think they'll have that parade. I think they have the parade planned for this week, Big C. The celebration for not winning a game this year. And they played the Steelers tough. The Steelers go to 13-3 and with a 28-24 win. That game is Sunday, 1 o'clock on CBS Sports. Spiro Davis, Artem Achiletta have the play-by-play. Tomlin has the Steelers ready, but they were kind of nervous hanging on there at the end against the Browns. But the Steelers did pull out the win. Your thoughts on how healthy the Steelers will be going into the playoffs? They're looking for that matchup with New England. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they're looking to get Antonio back for this game. That's going to be a key factor.
Yeah.
Will they have him back in the lineup? They have an outstanding receiving core. I've been so impressed with the Steelers, drafting receivers throughout the history of this organization. When you go back to Chuck Noll and you think about him having Swan and Stallworth.
Yeah.
And the receiving core that he built, even the backups that he had, and we saw that followed up with Cowher.
Yep.
The receiving core that he had with Holmes and Hines Ward.
Yeah.
Guys getting him to the Super Bowl. And now when you look at the crew that Mike Tomlin has assembled, Charlton, they've never lacked at that position. Everybody's talked about the defense of the Steelers throughout their history.
Yeah.
But their receiving corps, Charlton, have never taken a back seat to anybody.
Yeah.
And that will be the X factor in this game also. We understand that Le'Veon Bell could do so many things out of the backfield.
Yeah.
But Big Ben relies on his receiving corps more than any other quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
And so they will be the difference makers in this playoff game.
That's very true, Big C. The Packers finished a disappointing season, blown out by the Lions 35-11, and the Lions finished at 9-7. The Packers at 7-9. That game was Sunday at 1 o'clock on Fox Sports. And I just want to get your thoughts. I think Caldwell's out, even though they finished above 500. And just give me your thoughts quickly on the Lions, what they can look forward to next year and wrap up this season. Big C, your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, there was nothing wrong with that organization. Matthew Stafford has been the weak part of that organization. I mean, he's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, and he can't get them to the playoffs. But Jim Caldwell, he loses his job. He's 35-26 as a head coach.
Yeah.
Now, I look, like I said, I don't know math very well, but I think that's a winning percentage.
Yeah, last I heard.
Yeah. In fact, he has a better winning percentage than your cousin.
Yeah.
Right? and he keeps getting a pay raise, and Jim Caldwell's going to get fired.
Yeah.
For having a winning record. I look around at all the coaches that's been dismissed in the NFL. Pagano.
Yeah.
Fox.
Yep.
Del Rio.
Yeah.
Who else has gone out there? It's 6 altogether.
And Arians just decided also.
Bruce Arians retired today.
Yeah.
But when you look at the coaches that were all fired, they had losing records, Charlton, in their career.
Yeah.
Jim Caldwell didn't have a losing record.
Nope.
He had a winning record.
Yep.
But the only difference, and I hate to point these things out, and people will always say, no, that's not the factor. Yes, it is. He was African-American.
Yeah.
And he can't win for winning.
Yeah.
And so I go around the NFL, and I look at coaches who have a worse record than Jim Caldwell.
Yeah.
And keep their jobs and don't worry about anything.
Yeah, so we know that's part of the good old boy neck will always wear his ugly head. The Texans, they get beat down by the Colts 22-13, and the Colts go to 4-12. The Texans fall to 4-12. That game was Sunday on CBS Sports with Tom McCarthy and Steve Berline and Steve Tasker with the play-by-play. Just give me a quick sum up on the Colts season and going forward, what they have to do. Big C, your thoughts.
Well, that's another one of the coaches, Pagano. He's gone, Charlton.
Yeah.
And that's a job as a coach, you got to decide, is it really worth it?
Yeah.
Because when you look at Irsay, the owner of the team, the guy that has the Oxycontin driving in the passenger seat with him when he drives down the freeway.
Yeah.
Here's a guy with an ego that's as big as Jerry Jones, and he's trying to be like Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
But, when you go in there and you look at the situation, they say, well, they got Andrew Luck. No, they don't have Andrew Luck. When was the last time Andrew Luck played a football game?
Yeah, long
Gotta
time
ask
ago.
that question.
Yeah.
This is the same scenario with Andrew Luck we saw with Peyton Manning. A guy that was supposed to be at the top of his game all of a sudden was without a job and he couldn't play with that organization any longer.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't count on Andrew Luck when people say, go there as a head coach because you got the former number 1 overall draft pick in the NFL. No, you don't.
Yeah.
He has not played, and there's really no guarantee that he will play in Indianapolis again.
Yeah.
So that's a job that you have to have speculation about when you look at Indianapolis. Not only that, Charlton, they don't have any stars on the team.
No.
You don't have a star receiver. You don't have a star offensive lineman. Your best player on the team is a 33-year-old running back.
Yeah.
And so he's wrong in the tooth.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't know anybody on defense.
Yeah.
They don't have a pass rush anymore. Freeney doesn't play there anymore.
Yeah.
Nor does Mathis.
Yeah.
These guys are gone.
Yeah.
So, what do you have in that? You talk about a reclamation project, Charlton. The two worst jobs are the jobs that Jim Harbaugh is up for.
Yep.
Indianapolis and Chicago.
Yep.
These are two reclamation projects.
And he may find with one of them a little bit more comfortable than answering to the Big Ten and the Michigan Blue alumni, Big C. The Bills.
Well, they're both in Big Ten territory, Indianapolis and Ohio. So.
Yeah, Big Ten territory. See, he may not have to move like he did when he left the West Coast, Big C. The Bills, we talked about them 22-16 over the Dolphins. So they're in the wild card. And the Bengals, they finished the season with the win over the Ravens. They go to 7-9, beating the Ravens 31-27. And that game was Sunday, 4:25 kickoff on CBS Sports. Iron Eagle Dan Fouts and Evan Washburn with the play-by-play, Big C. Just give me your quick thoughts on, I know Marvin Lewis is stepping down, but Dalton's not going to be the savior for the Bengals either, Big C. And then you look at Ravens, the Flacco and the Ravens, they also have to look forward to next year. Your thoughts on what's going on with those programs?
Well, there won't be a decision made on Marvin Lewis unless it's today or tomorrow, Charlton. They didn't immediately let him go.
Yeah.
So, they're still in discussion. You got to look at this organization with the injuries that they had. And coaches are based on wins. But coaches can't control injuries. And when you look at this roster, they were raked with injuries all season long. And so no coach can withstand that throughout the season. Marvin Lewis has consistency of keeping this organization in check. You look at the games that he had won since he's been there. And everybody always wants to say, well, he hasn't won a playoff game. And, let's go down the list of NFL coaches that have not won a playoff game and got a job.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That list is longer than it is shorter. Okay?
Yeah, that's true.
So, the maligning that Marvin Lewis gets for winning, when the organization lets top players go, Charlton, you can't blame Marvin Lewis when you lose top receivers, top offensive linemen, top cornerback. You can't blame Marvin Lewis for that. But they do. They say, well, he should be able to coach the guys that come in. Well, why the organization let the better players go?
Yeah.
With the amount of money that's in the NFL, you make salary cap adjustments. You structure contracts where the guys are going to get their money.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
If you let Marvin Lewis go in Cincinnati, who are you going to bring in? I mean, right now you got 7 coaching openings in the NFL.
Yeah.
Tell me what hotshot coach out there. I know they're going to say that the offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels, in New England.
Yeah.
Now, I think about 5 years ago, he might have been up there in Denver.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
About 5 years ago, he was in Denver. That didn't work out too well.
That's true.
And then there's another hotshot, Todd Haley in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
At the same time, he was in Kansas City.
Yeah.
That didn't work out too well.
Yeah.
So when you start saying we're going to start retreading these guys, what makes you think they're going to be successful outside the organization that they're with?
Yeah.
Because they left those organizations before, Charlton, and failed, and they went back, okay?
Yep, that's a good point. Sometimes you got to go something
all
fresh.
All assistant coaches are not head coaches.
Yeah. Now, sometimes you just need a fresh cup of coffee, Big C. And we talked about the Jaguars, getting into the playoffs. And so congratulations to them. The Saints and Buccaneers touched on them. The Chiefs into the playoffs. We touched on them. They beat the Broncos 27-24. The 49ers finished out strong with a 10-6 on the season at 34-13 win over the Rams. We know they rested everyone in that game of Sunday. The final 2 games I want to ask you about before we close out for our beautiful New Year Day show, Big C. I want to look at the Raiders. The Raiders are disappointing fall to 6-10 on the season, blown out by the Chargers 30-10 down in Carson. The Chargers go to 9-7. That game was Sunday, 4:25 on CBS Sports. Kevin Harlan, Rich Gannon with the play-by-play. The Raiders, there's something about you tell your team you're leaving after you have one good season. They're going to Las Vegas for more money. Obviously, people go for the money, of course. But does Las Vegas really want a product that scores 10 points against the Chargers and at the end of the season coming into their state and trying to suck money out of their fan base, Big C, with saying we're going to give you 10 points in the game? That make any sense, Big C? Your thoughts?
But Charlton, you made this deal when you had a winning record.
Yeah.
That's what you did. You made this deal when you had a winning record. That winning record went by the wayside in a hurry because everything basically was the same this year with the Raiders as it was last year.
Yeah.
And you saw at the end of last season, Charlton, where they went downhill.
Yep.
Now, they got rid of Ken Norton several weeks ago saying that he was the cause of the team not winning. All right?
Yep.
So how many games have they won since they got rid of Ken Norton? That's the question that I want to ask.
That's true.
How many games? Because he was the reason they were losing.
Yeah.
And that the offense wasn't scoring touchdowns. And as you just said, they scored 10 points in their last game.
And one was like a 70-yard pass.
170-yard pass, Charlton, to Cooper.
Yeah.
About 80 yards, actually.
Yeah.
With Cooper.
Yeah.
And he ran about 40 with it.
Yep.
So, but Ken Norton was the reason they couldn't get any more touchdowns other than that.
Yeah.
So, when I look at the Raiders and they get rid of Jack Del Rio, the big talk right now is them bringing in John Gruden, bringing him back.
For what?
Let's rekindle this relationship. It didn't work out the first time we traded you.
Yeah.
Now let's see if we can bring you back. Now, John Gruden didn't have a winning record with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as head coach.
He did not.
So when people start looking, Charlton, at what somebody does, John Gruden did not have a winning record with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Nope.
You'll remember him from winning a Super Bowl with Tony Dungy's team.
Yeah.
But when he had to coach the team, Charlton, he didn't have a winning record.
Nope.
I don't think that's a good move for the Raiders.
No, he hasn't been in coaching for a long time. Again, they keep taking people out of retirement instead of looking at the young crop of offensive and defensive coordinators who've been in the trenches. This is all a media ploy to say, hey, we're going to bring John Gruden back, give him some ownership of the team, so we'll be more attractive to the people in Las Vegas. The Las Vegas deal is already done. They were dumb enough to buy a franchise that doesn't even have a fan base in Nevada. But they're doing it for the money because Davis doesn't care about the fans or the players. He's going to put some more money in his pocket, and he's going to get it done. I want to go up to the Northwest before we close out today, Big C, on this beautiful New Year's program on Big C Sports all around the world. We thank everyone for following Big C Sports. A lot of good things coming to us in 2018. The Seattle Seahawks missed the playoffs for the first time in a long time. They finished 9-7 on the season. They fall to the Cardinals, which go to 8-8. They lost 26-24 because of a missed field goal and a couple of missed opportunities. That game was Sunday, a 4:25 start on Fox Sports. Chris Myers, Daryl Johnson, and Laura Oakland with the play-by-play. Let me get your thoughts on Pete Carroll. Going into next year, they have to find a way to protect Russell Wilson. He won't make it through the whole season next year. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they have to find a way to protect Russell Wilson. They have to find some guys who want to block.
Yeah.
It's not just protect Russell Wilson. They have to find some guys who want to block.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been kind of heartless the last 2 years as an offensive line. Since they went to the Super Bowl and they got rid of Unger at center, they haven't done anything, Charlton. And their running backs, and I don't know why they're so anemic and they have not been able to replace Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah.
That's been a big Achilles heel for them.
Yeah.
And, you think about Pete Carroll. What has happened to Seattle, Charlton, is what happens to every great team is that they get old.
Yeah.
The Dallas Cowboys got old when they had the triplets.
Yep.
With Smith, Aikman, and Irvin. They got old.
Yeah.
And the Steelers got old, under
Bradshaw.
the previous coach.
Yeah.
That they had.
Bill Cowher.
Cowher.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got old. This happens to teams, Charlton, is that run doesn't stay there. When you think about teams that have played in multiple Super Bowls in the last decade, Charlton, there's only been 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's only been 3. That's Seattle, New England, and Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Other than that, you don't have them.
Yep.
And so what they did in the Northwest, and now that defense has gotten old, it's gotten beat up. When the injuries start to get on the defensive backs, last year was Earl Thomas. They lost their free safety.
Yeah.
This year was Chancellor and Sherman.
Yeah.
So you lost the 2 corners. You lose a defensive lineman.
Yep.
So this team has gotten beat up and got old. It's not easy to keep replacing players in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the Raiders; they were a one-year wonder.
Yeah.
Look how quick the Denver Broncos went down after going to 2 Super Bowls. So it's actually been 14.
Yeah.
Look how quick they went down. No one is talking about the demise of the Denver Broncos, even though they did change coaches. They still say it's a solid organization.
Yeah.
Seattle's better than Denver. You know, they have just as many Super Bowl victories in the 2010s
Yeah.
as the Denver Broncos does.
Yeah.
But everyone's talking about how bad Seattle is. No one's talking about the bad moves that John Elway has made in Denver.
Yeah,
you know,
I agree.
coaching and quarterback-wise.
Yeah.
I think Seattle will be okay, Charlton. They're going to have to replace a couple of the vets. That relationship, you got to let go. You're going to have to let some of these guys move on and bring in some younger guys who have careers in front of them, not careers behind them.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Big C. So 2017 had its ups and downs, and a lot of strange things happened in 2017. 2018 will be a much better year for everyone, and as we love the world of sports and politics and entertainment, we'll keep bringing it to you on Big C Sports. Big C, that announcer from the Rose Bowl, he kept stealing my line. He kept saying when the running back was running down the field, he kept saying, look at him rumbling, okay? I think we heard on that with Drew Bundini Brown's statement that I say to you all the time. I love everything about the new year. Big C, I'm so grateful for everything. I'm so grateful to be working with you again. I want to just say this, Big C. Back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always say to Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Charlton, I'm looking forward to getting back to my soap operas because college football technically will be over after tonight. We'll only have one more game after this.
Yeah.
So I won't have these college games upsetting my soap operas during the day.
Yeah, I understand that, Big C. And speaking of soap operas, you can follow soap operas every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. We always want to tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any woman going through that garbage, please call 911 because no woman should ever have to go through that garbage all on her own. And as we tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day. Happy New Year! See, great job, see?